Let me tell you about a client of mine. Let's call him Alexander. On paper, this man is the absolute gold standard, a man from an endangered species that seems to no longer exist. He is 50 years old. He sits in a corner office of a skyscraper, managing assets with figures that look like telephone numbers. His personal net worth is in the high 8 figures. He wears bespoke Italian suits, and his physical fitness would make any 30-year-old athlete envious. 6'2", Spartan discipline, and a life tuned like a Swiss chronograph. He is the king archetype in the business world. Everything he touches turns to gold. But despite conquering the peaks of finance and power, he keeps crashing into an invisible wall in his personal life. This man, capable of negotiating with business sharks, turns into a helpless child when it comes to women his own age. We spent hundreds of hours analyzing his failures, and he is the one who asked me to make this video. He said, "Harold, if I'm getting played with my resources and experience, then the average guy simply has no chance without a map of the minefield." And he is right. The problem is that men, especially successful ones, are programmed to solve problems. We see a project, we see potential, and we want to invest. But in the relationship market, this builder instinct becomes your main vulnerability. Alexander falls into the same trap every time. He meets a woman in her mid-40s who looks incredible. She is well-groomed, stylishly dressed, speaks correctly, and has a radiant smile. And he projects an image onto her that does not exist. Jung called this the persona, a mask we wear to interact with the world. Alexander falls in love with the persona, completely ignoring what is hidden in the shadow. He looks at the facade and thinks she is perfect. He does not see the decades of destruction hidden behind the fresh plaster. My brother, you must understand, success in one sphere does not give you X-ray vision in another. You can be a lion in the boardroom, but you will become a sheep in the bedroom if you do not learn to see through masks. This story might seem familiar to you. If you've ever felt that in a relationship you are paying someone else's bills, fixing the mistakes of past men, hit the like button right now. This will be our signal. We are ready to talk about what others are too cowardly to mention. And if you are here for the first time and want to know the truth, subscribe. It is only going to get tougher. To understand the nature of this trap, we need a metaphor that any man will understand. If you follow the channel, you know I love cars. For me, it is not just metal, it's a philosophy. I adore my new Audi, a machine where every bolt and every line of code is created for efficiency. But let's be honest, every one of us has a weakness for classics. Imagine a 1970 Ford Mustang Boss 429, a legend, but not stock. I'm talking about what is called a Resto-Mod. This is when they take an old body and stuff it with modern technology. You change the suspension to independent. You put in a modern fuel-injected engine. You reupholster the interior in expensive Napa leather and install brakes from a Porsche. When you look at such a car, it takes your breath away. It has the spirit of the 70s, but the shine of 2025. It looks better than when it rolled off the assembly line. And this is where the Resto-Mod Syndrome lies, which kills men. Because no matter how much you tune the interior, no matter how much money you pour into the paint job, it's still a chassis that is 50 years old. Metal has memory. It has material fatigue. This car has survived thousands of impacts, vibrations, and overloads. It looks new, but the structural integrity has already been compromised by time.
Middle-aged women in the modern marriage market are the human equivalent of such a resto-mod. Look at the typical freshly divorced woman of 45. She comes out of a 15-year marriage and immediately goes for a major overhaul. She buys a membership to an elite fitness club. She goes to the best cosmetologist and sometimes to a surgeon for a lift and a breast tune-up. She changes her wardrobe, hairstyle, and makeup. She invests in her persona, in her external facade. And when she walks into a restaurant, she can truly outshine 20-year-old girls with her grooming and gloss. She looks like a high-class sports car. But you, my friend, forget to look at the odometer. You forget to ask for the service history. It does not matter how fresh the paint on the hood is. This vehicle has a mileage of 300,000 miles. And this mileage is not just a number. It is every scandal she has survived. It is every betrayal. It is every day she hated her ex-husband. It is every night she cried into her pillow from loneliness or anger. All this toxic chemistry has been circulating in her blood for years, changing her nervous system, her reactions, her soul. Jung called this the layering of unconscious experience. You cannot simply paint over trauma with Botox. And when you start dating such a woman, you are not dating the one you see. You are dating the ghosts of all the men who were before you. I remember one guy, Mark. He started dating a 46-year-old woman who looked 35. Energy, style, passion, he thought he had found the Holy Grail. Harold, she is wise, she understands everything, not like these young, empty shells, he told me. But 3 months passed. They were sitting in a restaurant, and the waiter mixed up the dish. A trifle, a 10-cent mistake. But suddenly, the ideal lady vanished. Before him sat a fury. She threw a tantrum, her face distorted, her voice became shrill. She was not screaming at the waiter, she was screaming at her first husband who never listened to her. At that moment, Mark realized a terrible thing. He was a hostage of a trauma from '94 that had nothing to do with him. This is the mechanical failure of the Resto-Mod. Outside there is shine, inside there is rotten wiring. The slightest spark and everything shorts out. You do not encounter such structural instability when you choose a woman with low mileage. In young women, the nervous system has not yet been mangled in the meat grinder of domestic hatred. Their spirit is not broken by 3 divorces and years of litigation. But here, you buy a beautiful picture, but as a bonus, you get a condemned building ready to collapse at the first earthquake. I want to test a hypothesis right now. Write the word mask in the comments if you have ever met a woman who looked like $1 million, but inside was absolutely destroyed and burned out by the past. Let's see how many of us have seen this dissonance with our own eyes.
Now we have an understanding of the Resto-Mod, but the main question remains. Why does a man who can see right through complex financial schemes fail to see that he is facing an emotional bankrupt? Why does Alexander, our hero with a fortune of $80 million, keep buying these assets at an inflated price? The answer does not lie in the woman. The answer lies within the man himself. And this is what Carl Gustav Jung called the mechanism of projection. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. The screen before you is white and empty. The woman you met is just the screen. But the movie you see is not her reality. It is the film playing in your projector. Jung argued that every man carries within himself an unconscious image of the ideal woman, the anima. This image is woven from our expectations, our needs for warmth, our fantasies about a goddess. And when we meet a woman who even remotely resembles this image, for example, she has the same voice or she loves the same music, our internal projector turns on at full power. You no longer see a person of flesh and blood with her past, her neurasthenia, and her daddy issues. You see your anima. You overlay qualities onto her that she does not possess. You think, she's so deep, although in reality she's just silent because she has nothing to say. You think, she's so vulnerable, she needs a protector, although in reality she's a predator looking for a new victim. You fall in love with your own hallucination, and the stronger your intellect, the more detailed and colorful this hallucination is. Smart men are the best screenwriters of their own failures. And here the second fatal error comes into play: investment thinking. Most successful men are builders. We see an old, ruined house, and our brain immediately paints a picture. If I put money in here, fix the roof, and do renovations, this will be a palace. We are used to seeing potential. In business, this quality makes you a millionaire. In relationships with women over 40, this quality makes you an idiot. You look at her and think, she was just unlucky with men. She needs someone like me. I will thaw her out. I will show her a normal life and she will blossom. You are trying to apply the anti-fragile strategy to an object that has already rotted. You cannot invest in the past. You cannot fix a person who has made their traumas the load-bearing structure of their personality. It is like trying to load the newest software onto a computer with a burnt-out processor. You will spend your resources, time, energy, money, emotions, and in return, you will only get the blue screen of death. Let's run a quick diagnostic. I will name 5 signs that you are currently in a state of projection, not a real relationship. Listen carefully. Sign 1. You ignore facts for the sake of the story. She tells you she cheated on her first husband because he did not pay attention to her. In business, you would immediately realize the partner is unreliable. But in a relationship, you tell yourself, well, with me it will be different. I will pay attention. You justify the red flag. Sign 2. You fill the silence. When she behaves strangely or coldly, you invent a complex psychological explanation for it. She's just tired. She had a tough period. You become her unpaid PR manager in your own head. Sign 3. Savior syndrome. You catch yourself thinking that you want to pull her out of her problems. Jung warned, beware of unearned wisdom. And I will say it simpler, beware of women who make their troubles your responsibility. If you feel like a hero saving a princess from a tower, check if that tower is actually her comfort zone. Sign 4. You are in love with potential. You tell friends, she will be amazing once we resolve her issues with her ex. The key word is once. You are living in the future that does not exist. You are eating the menu instead of the dinner.
Sign 5. You consider her an exception. All statistical data speaks against this union, but you are sure that specifically in your case, the laws of psychology and biology will take a pause. This is the highest form of hubris, for which life punishes very painfully. Understanding this mechanism is the first step to awakening. You must learn to separate your anima, your dream, from the real woman in front of you. Turn off the projector, turn on the lights, and look at what is standing in the center of the room. And there, most likely, stands not a goddess, but a tired human being with a huge, heavy bag on her shoulders. And it is the contents of this bag that we will talk about next, because unlike your fantasies, this load is absolutely real. We analyzed how you deceive yourselves. Now let's look at what exactly you get in the bundle with your illusion. The hardest part of a relationship with a woman who has gone through the meat grinder of life is not her age and not even her children. It is the invisible architecture of resentment that she has been building for decades. I want you to visualize this. Every time a man broke her heart, every time she was deceived, every time her hopes crumbled, she took that experience and turned it into a brick, a heavy, dirty, jagged brick. A healthy psyche processes experience and lets it go. But we are talking about resto-mods with high mileage. They do not throw away bricks. They stack them in a sturdy bag made of coarse fabric. And over the years, this bag becomes heavier than the woman herself. She drags it to every date. For her, this load is not a problem. For her, it is life experience, her armor, her proof that the world is cruel. She comes into your home, puts this dirty bag on your snow-white table, and expects you to help her carry it. But the scariest part is that you do not see this bag until you trip over it. Let's go back to Alexander. This story is the best illustration of how the past detonates the present. He had an important evening, a charity gala dinner where the city's entire elite was gathering. He was supposed to introduce his new companion there, that same ideal woman of 45. They were getting ready at her place. Time was running out. Alexander came out of the shower and saw that his dress shirt had gotten slightly wrinkled on the way. He is a man used to solving issues quickly. He kindly, without any hidden agenda, asked her,
"Honey, do me a favor. Iron the collar while I finish shaving. We're running late." Silence hung in the room, thick enough to suffocate in. The temperature dropped to absolute zero. She turned to him. In her eyes, there was no longer love or tenderness. There was ice and rage. She hissed through her teeth, "I will not iron a shirt for a man. I am not your servant." Alexander was taken aback. He did not ask her to scrub floors. He asked for 5 minutes of help so that they both looked dignified. He's a multimillionaire who just paid for their vacation to the Maldives, costing the annual budget of a small country. And suddenly he became an enemy of the people because of a piece of cotton?
Any other man would have started a scandal, but Alexander, like me, studies human nature. He saw that her reaction was disproportionate to the situation. It meant it wasn't about the shirt, it was about something else. Later, when the storm settled, he began, as Jung put it, emotional archaeology. He started digging, and he dug down to a truth that makes blood run cold. It turned out that 25 years ago, when she was a student, her mother died of cancer. She returned home early and caught her father with a mistress. And what was this mistress doing? She was standing in the kitchen, smiling, ironing a shirt for the father. At that moment, a fuse blew in her brain. The image of ironing a shirt became linked with betrayal, pain, replacing the mother, and humiliation. She made an unconscious vow to herself, "I will never be like that woman. I will never serve a man." And here, a quarter of a century later, stands Alexander. He knows nothing about this drama. He just wants to look good. But for her, in that moment, he is not the beloved man. He is her traitor father. And she is that same little girl defending her mother's honor. Alexander got caught in the crossfire of a war that ended when he was still in college. This is what Jung called the interference of the collective unconscious, or an act of possession by a complex. You think there are 2 of you in the room. No. You are in the room with her alcoholic ex-husband, with her cruel father, with the guy who dumped her at prom. You are alone, and they are a legion. And you, with your good intentions, are paying their bills. You are paying for someone not calling her back in 2005. You are paying for someone calling her fat in 2010. You are paying for her fear of being used, even though you are the only one giving without asking for anything in return. Let's conduct an audit of this bag. I want you to know these bricks by sight, because if you do not recognize them immediately, they will become the foundation of your future prison. Here are the 3 heaviest bricks you will find in the luggage of almost any Resto-Mod woman. Brick 1. Presumption of guilt. A young girl looks at you with curiosity. She thinks, maybe he is a hero. A woman with a past looks at you through a scope. She thinks, I wonder how exactly this bastard will disappoint me. You haven't opened your mouth yet, and you are already the defendant. Every action of yours is interpreted against you. You stayed late at work for the family? No. You, like her ex, are avoiding home. You bought her expensive earrings? No. You, like that guy from the office, are trying to buy sex. You cannot win this game because the rules are written by her traumas. This is exactly the level of depth you will find in every one of my videos. We are not just discussing superficial tricks, we are opening up the very essence of human nature that popular psychologists are afraid to talk about. If this is the approach you were looking for, now is the perfect moment to subscribe to the channel. Become part of a community that sees the world as it is. And let's break down the second brick, which is even more dangerous than the first. Brick 2, the comparative spreadsheet. For a young woman, you are the gold standard. You are writing history on a clean slate. A woman with experience has a giant Excel spreadsheet in her head. It has thousands of rows. But Mike did this better. But Steve was more generous. But John had more time. You are not competing with real people. You are competing with idealized memories of the best moments of their exes, while receiving all the dirt of their worst moments. This is a competition where it is impossible to take gold.
Brick 3. Weaponized independence. I don't need a man, I can do everything myself. This phrase sounds like an anthem of strength, but in reality, it is a cry for help wrapped in barbed wire. She learned to survive without help, and now she perceives any offer of care from you as an attempt on her freedom. You want to open the door for her? She gets offended. You want to solve her problem? She says you are controlling her. You are trying to be a man, and she is fighting you for the right to be the man in a skirt. Why do you need a war in your own home if you are already fighting the world every day? And this leads us to the most cynical part of our conversation, to economics, to why biology and the market are always right, even if it seems unfair. Ready to hear the unpleasant truth about asset value? If we are brutally honest, the marriage market is the only economy in the world where sellers try to sell an amortized, obsolete asset at the price of a new premium class one, and then get offended when the buyer asks to see the technical passport. We have been programmed for years with a very loud, very aggressive narrative. We were told that age is just a number, that 40 is the new 20, and that a woman with 2 divorces and 3 children is the ideal match for a high-ranking man because she allegedly knows life. But let's turn off social media and turn on biology. Biology is not a liberal. It does not know political correctness. It does not read posts about independence. It operates with harsh imperatives of survival. The value of a man in this market is futures. It is his future. It is his ability to create resources, protect the perimeter, and provide stability. A man builds his value for years. At 50, Alexander is worth 10 times more than he was worth at 25. He is a growing asset. The value of a woman in the context of long-term relationships and creating a family is her past and her biology. It is harsh, but it is a fact. Studies in every culture on every continent show the same thing. Men, regardless of their own age, consider the peak of female attractiveness to be the period from 22 to 24 years old. Why? It is not pedophilia and not infantilism, as feminists try to scream. It is an evolutionary scanner. Smooth skin, high energy, sparkle in the eyes, these are markers of fertility, and more importantly, these are markers of low psycho-emotional mileage. A young woman is a new project. She comes into your life with optimism. She hasn't seen so much evil. She hasn't spent her best years fighting losers. She doesn't have the habit of comparing you to a dozen predecessors. She is a clean slate on which you, as a creator man, can write a beautiful story. And what do you get with a Resto-Mod? You get a woman who has already spent her best years, her best energy, and her patience on others, on those who didn't appreciate it. And you get the leftovers, you get the fatigue, you get the cynicism. Why on earth should a man who worked hard for 30 years to become a king settle for the role of the forest sanitation worker? Here we come to Jung's most important concept, individuation. Jung said that the first half of life is socialization, when we do what society expects of us, but the second half of a man's life must be dedicated to individuation, becoming yourself. Society wants you to be a utility. Society wants you to take your resources and spend them on solving other people's problems. It tells you, be a real man, take responsibility for a woman with children. But individuation requires you to ask the question, but what do I need?
Do I need peace? Do I need inspiration? Do I need lightness? Yes. And if for this I need a 25-year-old companion who looks at me with admiration and not a 45-year-old critic who looks at me with judgment, then such is my path. Refusing the role of the savior of broken women is an act of the highest spiritual maturity. You stop being a function. You become the main character of your life.
Of course, the system will resist. As soon as you make a choice in favor of youth, an avalanche of shaming will fall on you. You will hear the standard script. Why don't you grow up? You just need a dummy you can boss around. You're afraid of a strong, independent woman. Listen to me carefully. These phrases are not arguments. These are manipulative viruses. This is a shaming tactic designed to keep high-resource men in the stable. It is not profitable for the system for you to be happy with a young woman. It is profitable for the system for you to pay mortgages and therapists for those who miss their chance. When they tell you you are afraid of a strong woman, the translation sounds like this: you refuse to tolerate my disrespect, and it pisses me off. Do not fall for this. Your desire for peace, freshness, and purity is not a weakness. It is a healthy instinct of self-preservation. Let's be honest. You didn't build your empire to spend weekends clearing the emotional rubble of someone else's past. You built it for joy. You built it for legacy. And the question you must ask yourself tonight, looking in the mirror, sounds like this: am I the master of my resources, or am I just a sponsor of someone else's survival? The answer to this question determines whether you will be happy for the next 20 years or just convenient. Now that you see the matrix, you will have a logical question. Harold, does this mean that all women over 30 are a radioactive zone? No. Exceptions exist, but as my financial advisor says, hope for an exception is not a strategy, it is gambling. To survive and keep your sanity, you need a strict verification protocol. You need to become that mechanic who does not believe the seller's words, but lifts the car on a hoist and shines a flashlight into the darkest corners. I call this method Protocol Clean Slate. Its task is to find out in 3 dates what usually comes to light in 3 years of marriage. We will use Jung's principles to provoke her shadow to come out into the light before you sign the documents. Here are 3 stress tests that every man is obliged to conduct before investing a single dollar in a Resto-Mod. Test 1. The past audit. Most men are afraid to ask about exes, considering it bad manners. This is a mistake. You must ask, but you need to listen not to the facts, but to the tonality. Ask, why did your last long-term relationship end? And watch closely. If she says her ex was a narcissist, abuser, psychopath, or just an idiot, and at the same time there is not an ounce of her own guilt in her story, run. This is a red siren. A psychologically healthy adult woman always admits her share of responsibility. If she's the eternal victim, it means you are her future executioner. In her world, there are no bad relationships, there are only bad men, and you will be next on this list.
Test 2. Boundary provocation. You must artificially create a small problem. Remember the shirt story? Don't wait for a chance, create it yourself. Change plans at the last moment. Say no to her in a small matter. Be 10 minutes late. Your goal is to see her reaction to stress and disappointment. A healthy woman will say, okay, too bad, but let's reschedule. A woman with a bag of bricks will take this as a personal insult. Her shadow will burst out. She will start manipulating, sulking, or getting aggressive. This is the moment when the persona mask falls off. Jung said, you cannot see someone's shadow until you stand in its way. Stand in her way in a small matter so as not to collide with her in a disaster. Test 3. The silence test. Spend time with her without entertainment. No restaurants, no movies, no phones. Just a walk or a drive in the car in silence. A woman who has chaos inside cannot stand silence. Silence forces her to hear her own demons. She will start filling the air with chatter, complaints, gossip, or anxiety. A woman who has worked through her past is comfortable in silence. Her inner world is a garden, not a battlefield. If you are uncomfortable being silent with her for 15 minutes, imagine what it will be like to live with her for 15 years. You must learn to trust your gut more than her words. Alexander, my client, learned this too late, but you can do it now. Knowledge is not just power.
Knowledge is armor, and the most important wisdom Jung left us sounds like this. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Stop looking outside at her shiny facade. Look inside, into her history, into her unconscious, and into your true motives. Back to Alexander. You are probably waiting for a happy ending where he eventually fixed that woman, they got married, and she started ironing his shirts with pleasure. No. In real life, in the life of adult men, a happy ending looks different. Alexander broke up with her a week after the shirt incident. He didn't explain, didn't educate, didn't try to heal. He just realized this asset is toxic. He wrote off the losses and closed the deal. Today, he is dating a girl who is 26 years old. She is not rich, she has no career in the city, but when he comes home, it smells of peace. She doesn't fight him, she admires him. And for him, as a man who fights the world all day, this peace is more valuable than any status. Your life is your main project. You are the architect, and you cannot build a skyscraper on a foundation of someone else's ruins. Do not let society, mom's advice, or the fear of loneliness force you to take on someone else's burden. You have the right to lightness. You have the right to freshness. You have the right for your energy to go into creation, not into repairing someone else's broken destiny. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Decide today to become the one who chooses himself. Stop being a restorer, become a king. This path will cost you the approval of the crowd, but it will gift you something much more valuable, your life force. And remember, you are not obligated to explain your choice. Lions do not explain their tastes to sheep. If today we opened an abscess and you felt relief, it means we did our job. But understanding is only the beginning. In the next videos, we will go further, breaking down the mechanics of masculinity. Now I have a last request for you. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." We made it conscious today. Write in the comments, which brick from a woman's past was the heaviest in your experience. Tell your story. Your truth might save someone who is thinking right now that they are losing their mind. And don't forget to hit the bell. You don't want to miss the next survival lesson. Take care of yourselves, brothers. See you soon.